So that's a more comedy version of it. This one did not do well with most people. But that's the kind of cool thing about public domain stuff. Some of it's great, some of it's terrible, but because everybody gets to give it a shot, you got to kind of sift through it. And there's been lots of other versions. All of these have come out since like the 80s. All those guys down there have all played Sherlock, and to varying degrees of success. Here's a really good example of something that's been affected by this copyright law. Batman would be public domain by now. So you have these official versions through DC Comics owns the rights to them. I believe Warner Brothers have the film rights. They control the image of Batman, and it's in their interest to not let it get too out of control, not do anything too weird with it, because they don't want to jeopardize alienating the fans. So we see these very similar kinds of Batman come out. Like that's the animated series one, the old 60s one, old black and white Batman, you got 80s Batman. And although there is some difference, there's always going to be a little bit of like what people bring to it. They try to maintain and make it look as similar as possible. So you got like 2000s Batman and 90s Batman. This is what he currently looks like in comic book form. It's computer colorized, and that's what gives it that kind of sheen to it. But again, not much has changed. It goes from blues to grays and stuff like that, but for the most part, the story never changes. But if we were to put him in the public domain, we'd see some serious change. These are just some fan artworks of Batman. Stuff people did for the fun of it, because they like the character, but they want to do something new and unique with it. So you have Batman in the 1700s, you have this weird demonic Batman. So there's some really interesting ideas out there, interesting artistic ideas that would take it in weird and unique ways. But people can't do these, can't produce whole stories in these universes because DC and Warner Brothers won't let them. But we just get these little previews of it, of little fan art things, of these interesting ideas. And we can always wonder, but because of the whole life plus 70 years, we'll never get to see these. More demonic Batman, real stylized, artistic, literal Batman. So, why can people make those fan arts, but they can't make a movie or a comic book? It's what's called fair use, and it's one of the few things on the other end of this copyright law thing. Fair use means you can take something and change it enough or do something different enough to it. Like basically, well, let's just read the description. In most general sense, a fair use is any copying of a copyrighted material done for a limited, so that's doing one drawing instead of a whole comic book, and transformative purpose. That means it's so different. It's not the exact same thing. If you released a comic book called Batman that's just a Batman story about Bruce Wayne, that's not transformative enough. But those ones we saw that are, a demonic Batman or a Batman in a different century, that's transformative. That's doing something different with it. If you're using the work to comment upon, criticize, or parody a copyrighted work. So if you are making fun of Disney, like that one of those copyright videos we watched that used all those Disney references in it, that's a parody of it. That's criticizing it. And that's protected. You're actually allowed to break copyright for that reason. So copyright's protecting people from direct ripoffs. Like you're just making your own Harry Potter story and selling it as an official Harry Potter story. Not allowed. But you're making a comedy version of Harry Potter to make fun of Harry Potter, that's allowed. And here's one of the best stories about fair use, one of the most timely. That artist is Shepard Fairey, the Obey Giant guy. He made this poster of Obama during his first campaign and gave it to the Obama campaign in order to, and just let them use it. Like, here, take it. I don't want any money for it. I just want you guys to win, so here, take this poster. But there became a lawsuit and a whole criminal trial thing about where he got the image this is based on. And this is where we get into that idea of fair use. If he had just given credit to the original photographer, said, I got this picture from this person, and gave them the credit they deserved, that would be fair use because it's a really different version than the original picture. But instead of doing that, he said, nope, it's a picture I took, and I based my artwork off of that, so I don't have to give anybody credit. And that's where he made a mistake. So, The one below is the one he says he used, and it's pretty close, but it doesn't match up completely. The one up top is the one he actually used. It's a picture by the Associated Press. And what he needed to do was give that person credit. And he would have said, like, it's fair use. I use this picture, but it's transformative enough. Instead, he said, no, I took the picture, which just isn't true. So that dips into what is plagiarism. So you have copyrighted material, not allowed to copy unless it's fair use. If you don't fall under fair use, you're committing plagiarism. And that's just straight up stealing. So here's what plagiarism is. It's to steal or pass off the ideas of somebody else as your own, to use another's production without crediting the source. That's what Shepard Fairey did. To commit literary theft, or to present as new and original an idea or product derived from an existing source. So it's not just using an existing source, but pretending it's your own new original idea when it's clearly not. So here's some examples. There's the original artwork on the left and the copy on the right. That person clearly just made their artwork as close to that one as humanly possible and did not give the original artist credit for it. That's stealing. That's pretending you came up with the idea on your own. If they had changed something severe about it, like the color of the blood or the way it was drawn or something like that, and said, hey, my inspiration was this one by this artist, that becomes fair use because you're giving the person credit and you're not stealing it directly. This is just stealing it directly and saying you came up with it. Here's another example. And you can see there's difference here. It's not 100% just I made a print of it. The problem is not acknowledging that you got the idea from somewhere. Just saying like, nope, came up with it all on my own. Even something like this where it's in a different environment, drawn a different way, it's a different kind of creature. If you look at it, it clearly stole the positions of all these like serpent dragony things. They're in the exact same spots. And again, they didn't give credit to the original artist. They just claimed they completely came up with it. And that's the problem. So here's another list of what is considered plagiarism. Turning in someone else's work as your own, copying words or ideas from somebody else without giving credit, failing to put a quotation in quotation marks, so pretending you said it basically, giving incorrect information about the source, saying the wrong artist created it, that's another one, changing words by copying the sentence structure or the source without giving credit. So even if you take the sentence and change the words in it, if it's built the same way, the original author, same with the artist, like that last one we looked at where the image was built off the same basic structure, you still have to give credit. Copying so many words or ideas from the sort that it makes up the majority of your work, whether or not you give credit. If you're just like you write a 5-page paper and 90% of it is quotes, that starts to cross the line into plagiarism because you're not coming up with anything. You're just hobbling their work back together after cutting it to pieces. All right, so that's kind of the idea with copyright, fair use, and plagiarism. It can really benefit artists as far as protect them during their lifetimes, but it looks like some corporations are taking advantage of it. So, take a look back at that original question. Do you think these laws are helping artists? Should we back them off? Would fair use really be helpful? Like, would you like to be able to make your own Batman comic? Do you think it would destroy the character for everybody to go out and make their own Batman comic? That's the kind of ideas you need to consider when coming up with your opinion about copyright laws. All right, guys, have a fantastic day.